Welcome to Ops Experts Club. That's how we start. Oh man, pretty excited today. Great to see everybody here. Nicole, nice to have you. Kimberly, nice to see you always. Savannah and Taryn, of course, you're like fixtures. Love having you here. I know Buffy. It's okay. I'm with you, Savannah. Don't be hurt. So I'm pretty excited about what we've got going today because you guys might not know how badass Rachel is. And she may look like a vagrant living in her car right now, but she's not. She is incredible. I'll tell you this. So, we talked about a couple of weeks ago how we as operations-based people, we always feel the burden of needing to have the answers, right? We're the ones running things. We better know how it all works. But, Collab Team has found a sweet spot in that there's part of marketing that we do well, but it's the non-sexy side of marketing, right? It's the making sure everything's all plugged in, right? Make sure all the landing pages, all, ClickFunnels is speaking back to the CRM, speaking back to the membership area, speaking back to the third-party integrations, making sure all of it works right for the people who actually do the sexy side of marketing to really be able to just get out there and knock down, the people that are interested in the product, interested in the services. And Rachel actually does the sexy side of marketing. So Rachel Stivers is a good friend, and we've known each other a lot of years. And Rachel has been the CMO for Chief Marketing Officer for Pete Vargas for a lot of years in different applications for Advance Your Reach. And then they've gone on to do some other things together. And, I often give Rachel this compliment, but I think it's really important to give her this compliment here. And that is, Taryn and I have worked with a lot of marketing people. We've worked with a lot of people in a lot of different companies. We've been under the hood of a lot of different businesses. But I've never been as impressed with anybody as I am with Rachel, because I feel like Rachel does what she does so well. I feel like she's got a great story. Rachel's done a little bit of everything. Like her brilliance expands into lots of different areas, but she's the most organized of all of the marketing people that I've met. Usually marketing people are excited and they get out there and it's a lot of flash and there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and there's a lot of movement, but usually they don't think through the whole downstream of the process. They're just like, let me knock down as many people as possible, but they don't think about all the pain that the operations folks have to bear on the backside. Rachel is brilliant and beautiful because she could do it all on her own. She doesn't even really need the Collab team, but we were able to plug in and help her on the backside with Pete stuff. And then have got to go on and do some great stuff with John Acuff. Rachel has helped me with what she's going to share on today for John Acuff, which obviously New York Times bestseller, 7 books. He's done some really big stuff. We're really honored to be able to be in the midst of John Acuff stuff. But without further ado, Rachel, we talked a couple weeks back about imposter syndrome, right? And trying to be somebody we're not, and just feeling like, should I be in this shoe? Should I not be in this shoe? But how experts, one of the things that makes us experts is realizing we're not the expert in the space and to lean into experts in the space. And so I just want to say thank you for joining us today. You are an expert in this space. And I hope as you come into Ops Experts Club, whether the people that are on here today or are going to watch later on today or this week are going to really lean in, because I feel like you got a lot of awesome value to bring. So thanks again for coming.
Awesome to be here. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for that amazing introduction. I always makes me feel a little just very humbled to say for you to share that about me. So I'm not a vagrant living in my car. I'm at my parents and they live in the middle of nowhere, but usually I have several different devices to help me get online, and like nothing was working. I had like no bars. So I'm in a McDonald's parking lot, and I hope that because McDonald's has great internet all over the world. And so I'm I'm hoping it stays. I've tested it and had a couple of meetings, and it's been working. So just fingers crossed. So I'm here to talk about sales and marketing plans, SAM plans, and answer any questions you guys have about that. And then I have a templated SAM plan, like a simple one that I'm going to share with y'all so you can use it. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit and then walk through the example and then answer any questions that you guys have. So a sales and marketing plan, it is. And people that travel and end up in places that don't have internet, or parents live in the boonies.
And Rachel, you've lived a lot of places. You know what I'm saying? So when Rachel speaks as the authority, Rachel like picks up and moves a lot of places. So when she gives you a life hack like that, that's not just a couple of states. That's like pretty much United States wide right there.
Well, it's funny.
Actually,
Sorry. I was gonna say I have a friend who has also lived all over the country, and in college, obviously, like you're broke when you're in college, and so I knew that about McDonald's because that was her life hack. Like when she had to go and use the internet for school, she knew that she would pack up her school things, she would go to McDonald's and sit in the parking lot, and she would do her homework using the internet there because she couldn't afford internet at her apartment. So like legit life hack. Like McDonald's internet is good; it's everywhere.
Yeah, and it's not just in the U.S. One of the client I used to work for, they were based in Paris, and I was in Paris and I had this apartment, and the internet went out, and they don't have at that point. This was like in 2015 or 16. They didn't have like the internet cafes were like it was different. You couldn't like take your laptop; you had to like use their computers, and so I like posted up at a McDonald's for like a whole night, and then one night because I had to have the internet. So sales and marketing. So I'm actually in Louisiana. Actually, well, I live in Louisiana right now. I'm in Arkansas. I live in Shreveport. I just moved there like 2 months ago. Yes, I'm definitely using my air conditioning. It is definitely on.
Look at that, Kimberly. We've never found you somebody from Louisiana. Look at that. Rachel just got a twofer out of that for Kimberly.
I'm listening.
Are you in Louisiana?
Whoops.
Really? Oh.
Whoops. Yes. If you can't tell by my internet, I am in Louisiana. It's either the internet or the bad roads that they'll give you away every time. Yes, I am about an hour 15 south of Shreveport. So.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
We just moved from Cleveland.
There you go.
Sorry.
You made it back.
Great. Awesome. So, okay, I'm going to dive in and hopefully keep fingers crossed that this stays on. So the sales and marketing plan just essentially is a place where you set your sales and like goals for sales, and also plan out the initiatives that are going to help you meet those goals. And I've been my degree is actually in accounting, which might be the reason that sales and marketing plans actually appeal to me, because it's the numbers associated with the marketing. And I've been in digital marketing for probably like 12 years now. And of all the clients I've worked with, all the companies I've worked for, I think that's the number one, one of the number one difference between people that create success and meet their goals and move forward financially, and the companies that don't, is having the sales and marketing plan, allowing it to be a living document. And people probably call it different things, and then staying accountable to it and making adjustments as needed. And it is the single, and then the other key thing is that people have flexibility to make the goals like work. Like they kind of go where the money is. Like if you are selling a widget A and widget B, and you put all of your effort towards selling widget A, but people only want to buy widget B, that is surprisingly, people get something to happen in their company that's like not getting results, and they keep like forcing it to just, we're going to make this work, versus the path of least resistance or the low-hanging fruit, or like what people want to buy, they don't offer. So those are the two things that I've seen the difference between success and the opposite of success. And it is a living document. Like one thing that we do is at the beginning of the year, or before the end of the previous, like if we're planning for 2023, you would do this towards the end of 2022, is look at the past year, look at all of what worked, what didn't work, what you made. So if your goal was 2 million and you hit 1 million, taking that into account as you set the goals for next year, so that you're being reasonable, but also stretching a little bit. We usually set a stretch goal and then make a percentage of that the budget. So that you, in that example where your goal was 2 million and you made 1 million, ideally you're not making decisions as a company based on hitting 2 million, because that, if you don't have a history of doing that in the past, if like everything has to go right for that to happen, it's not a sound way to make financial decisions. That's where a lot of companies get into trouble, and then have to have layoffs, or don't accomplish what they need because they're not next year you would say like the budget goal was $1 million or like 1 point, so that it seems it's something that your company has done before. And you're not just saying like, oh, this year we're going to make $50 million. That might happen, but you don't want to plan on it. And then also that much growth would kind of break a team, or could potentially break a team. It would be fantastic in some ways and terrible as the operations people would be panicking a little bit and say like, this is not going to work. And the sales team would be very excited. The marketing team would be very, very excited, and nobody else would be. So that's two very important things, to have the stretch goal and the budget goal. And then the next thing you do, and I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen. So, can I share my screen?
Oh, sorry. Yes, you can. Taryn, I just want to go on record as saying, if she falls off, like, you're on. So I hope you know your stuff, and I hope you're ready to present. So God bless you.
I have been in so many meetings with Rachel when we work together that I'll do my best.
So this is an example of the SAM plan. This is one I'm going to share with you guys. Can everyone see it okay?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And then so at the bottom, this was just an example. So this is like the budget goal and the stretch goal. It doesn't have to be that far apart. A lot of times we do like 70%. It just sort of depends on results as a company in the past, as the company has had in the past. And then as operations people, I think it's important to also, be the voice of reason. Sales and marketing people, along with being excited, we tend to overestimate what we can get done, and also overestimate what the results are going to be. We tend to be very positive. We're going to get it, and the operations people need to say like, do you think that's really true? Or how are you going to do this? Asking all of those practical questions. And so once you set those goals and everyone's behind them, it's time to plan the initiatives. The last thing I'll say about the budget goal is that's like the thing that like people do whatever it takes to make that goal happen, because that's what the company has based decisions on. So if that means that you have to run a promotion, you do like a last minute sale, anything like that, that's where that stuff comes in, because you want to hit that. And then also train like the sales team and the marketing team that that's like not a negotiable, like you have to hit the budget goal or there are problems. So the next piece is planning the initiatives. So this tab is just to plan initiatives. I have some like dummy numbers in here, but every company is different. So in this instance, a lot of the initiatives were, for what this was based on, were for generating leads that sales team would get calls booked, and then a whole thing to figure out how many are sold. This is important to keep in mind, because sales teams also would be like, so we get 100 leads, we close 20% of leads, so we're going to get 20 sales, which is not true, because if you have a lead, they have to book a call, they have to show up to the call, and then they have to close. So it goes down very quickly if you have 100 leads. If only 20% of calls get booked, if only 60% of those people show up, and then you convert at 12%, your 100 leads are not quite the same. And I've seen that happen if the sales team is responsible for creating this. That stuff usually happens because they don't think through necessarily all of those steps. But they do when it's broken out in front of them. I also would typically say that sales teams should not be really doing a lot of Excel calculations. My personal experience with sales team. Y'all might have a different experience, but they're amazing, but they're not great at paperwork, and they're not great at being realistic with numbers.
Amen.
Even more so than marketers. So planning the initiatives is the next thing, and just looking. How I usually start this is we say like, what are the big things? Like, do you have a launch planned? Is there like a gigantic stage like traffic and conversion, or a big initiative that is gonna like set the tone for the rest of your year? And then fill in the gaps. So if you know you're gonna do like 2 big launches, do that. The other things that you know that are non-negotiables for the calendar, if you have a like talent, like there's a face of the company that needs to be around, making sure that you're planning initiatives around like their vacations or any sabbaticals, all of that stuff, and then seeing where the gaps are, where you need to fill them in with other initiatives. The other thing that we do with initiatives, and just to define what an initiative is, it's like a promotion it can be evergreen or live, like a launch or like an evergreen funnel, is that we have backup ones. So we know that if we need to pull something out of our back pocket to generate sales in a month that something's not really performing, that we know what those could be. We don't necessarily always have them like quote unquote ready to go, but we would have an idea of what that could be that we could replace something with, or how we would fill in that revenue. And you will hope that you don't have to use them, but you always do at some point during the year. The other piece around that and initiatives is being committed to the goal, not the initiative. And to have like an idea of testing. And this part is a little bit, in my experience, marketers tend to be kind of flexible with it, and operations tends to be like, so this was supposed to happen and this didn't happen, so why didn't it happen? And focusing on that versus like what the goal is not to make evergreen webinar work. The goal is to make the money that was supposed to produce. And I've seen marketers and operations people like get very committed. Well, we said that we were going to have an evergreen web versus committed to the goal. And that just ends up wasting a lot of time, because some things just don't work with some different offers or people. Like if you have, some people are great on video live, and then some people are great scripted. A lot of times they're not the same. So some teams are great at converting evergreen. Evergreen is very hard to do, and or it takes time to perfect, I guess is a better way to say that. So I would just invite you guys to be flexible with the initiatives that get you to the goal, and always have like the attitude of testing something is important. Like a Hall of Fame baseball player strikes out like 8 out of 10 times. So you don't necessarily need every single thing to hit out of the park. The teams that generally like break goals have a lot of initiatives planned. They're very conservative on how they estimate the results to be. And then a few of them just run away with success. Typically, you're not gonna be successful in every single one. That would be awesome if you are. Like, I don't want to discourage that, shooting for success, but but it's just important to get the big wins and then to let go of the crap that doesn't work. And I've experienced that being a little difficult for operations people sometimes, because they want to dig into like why something's not working. And this is a wonderful spreadsheet, but it's not magic. Like, it doesn't make the results itself. Like, we can put all the pretty numbers we want to do in here and make it like astronomical revenue, but the work has to get done and the promotions have to actually work. I'm gonna go back to my notes for a second. And the other thing I would say is just to keep it as simple as possible. This is a pretty simple template. I've made ones that are a lot more complicated. And then I've made ones that are so complicated that I'm the only one that can fill it out. Like, it takes like a week of training to get someone to understand how to update it or share results and stuff. And that's also not the goal, to have something that complex. And one thing I've also done that I'm doing more of now, and it's not in here just for the sake of simplicity, is for different promotions, like calculating out good, better, and best, or even like mediocre, good, better, and best results, and then kind of like picking what we think that promotion is going to produce, and then including that in the budget, which it adds a little bit more complexity in figuring out something that the finance team can budget on, but it works actually really great in being conservative, because you start to like map out different scenarios and do all this like forecasting, and you're like, so this is we're probably gonna end up in the middle for most initiatives. Any questions so far? I feel like I just dumped a lot of information.
That's great. I loved how you talked about how much crossover. I think that obviously in this short presentation you've done so far, you've talked about the marketing team, you've talked about the sales team, you've talked about the operations team, and you've talked about the finance team. And I think it's so important to realize that obviously Rachel's end is like the sharp end of the spear, right? She's going out there to pierce into the market, but it's going to have, all of that coming back, our direction. on how the implications are going to affect, ops on fulfillment, and how it's going to actually probably sales first, right? Marketing's piercing in, pushing leads back to the salespeople. The salespeople are trying to close. As they close, there's going to be fulfillment sequencing that needs to happen from the operations perspective. But when it's all said and done, it's got to financially make sense. And that's the finance side. And Rachel, I've really appreciated watching you, because I feel like you work really well with all of those teams, and you're really intimately connected with all those teams. And I think it takes so much confusion out of the room when you can just have clear expectations. That's why I actually really love your templates like this. That's why I introduced you to John Acuff the way I did, because I'm like, hey, listen, there are a lot of people that have great ideas about selling marketing things. But the bottom line is if it doesn't check and balance with all those other departments, all it does is kick up so much dust downstream, and there's so much confusion, and it wrecks the whole customer journey, because there's so much pain after we just told people how great our product was. We pierced into the market, and then we created all of this pain in the customer journey behind it. So I love that about what you're talking about.
Yeah, like thanks for bringing that up, because that's important. Like, everyone works together. Like, marketing can't create success on their own. Like, the overall success is the getting the lead, converting the lead, whether that be through like a marketing effort, like email campaigns or launches, or sales thing where we bring the leads to sales, and sales is responsibility to close them. And then there has to be the handoff to operations or fulfillment or CE, however the company's set up. And then it all affects finance. And usually CE, I feel like, is the most just abused team, because like typically nobody tells them anything. They just, sales and marketing might be friends, might not be friends. And some companies they're not, like they don't work well together.
Right.
And everyone I think has different philosophies about that. I think what I like to do is just not have, like, there are individual goals, like sales goals and marketing goals, but they're not in competition with, would like to make. And like the also AYR, because we still work with them, like as a example, I would like to generate more sales than the sales team does. That's just fun. But like ultimately we're on one team, and we're like having to work, we have to work together. And if we aren't cohesive, then it affects the whole entire company. So having those teams like work together and consider each other, it's very sad when that's not happening. You're definitely not creating the performance that you could. So any questions? And then the next thing I had was just kind of walk through how to use this template, if that's helpful for people to do.
I think I wanted to just ask about, like, this is all being derived from like a marketing plan, right? If you don't really have a marketing plan, you can't even really get these numbers, because otherwise, what are you doing?
Right.
So I think that's always good to sit down and create your marketing plan for the year, and then you can work on your SAM plan, because it needs to be coming from somewhere. And then when you do have your marketing plan, then you do have something you can hold to your visionary to be like, okay, this is what you said we're going to do. Or if something hot and new comes out, one of their friends is doing a launch, and you're like, well, we could promote it, but if we're doing our thing the next month, you're going to atrophy your list, So I always love the marketing plan and the marketing calendar, and being able to hold that up too with it.
Yeah, that's really important to bring up. And I have also, and y'all might experience this too, I have worked with visionaries that are very resistant to making commitments like this, or even creating goals. And that can be a challenge. It's definitely easier to implement a marketing plan and a sales, like the marketing and sales plan overall, when the visionary is very committed to the goals. And it's not that they don't want to win or don't want to generate revenue. They just kind of want to like float through the business a little bit differently. And in those cases, I've like had like my own plan, and I just adjust it, and they like don't ever really look at it, which is, I think, like really sad. I mean, it's their business. Like, I don't really know why but I mean, it's just how different visionaries think differently.
I think too, like a lot of times I've noticed, and Taryn, I think that's a really good point. Like when you can schedule things out, it cuts down on the frenetic energy, right? Because I think some visionaries, I think some people that are like the high powered front man, you know what I mean? Like almost feed off of chaos, feed off of the energy of chaos. And then the bad side of that is that may be fine for them, but that's not something that's sustainable to push down to team, because not everybody lives well in that environment. And it's a really bad customer journey when it's so jerky, when you like you're jerking in and out of what you're offering them. And or you know, we've worked with a lot of teams where everything's a pitch, like every email anybody gets is a pitch. All they're ever getting is pitched, you know. So then your open rate starts to drop because everything they ever hear from you is you asking them to buy something from them, you know, or you asking them to buy something from you. And so it's like your list atrophies, not only because like Taryn was saying, where you're bringing in all these partners, maybe offering other people's stuff, but if you always are moving on this frenetic energy of new thing, which I think the visionary feels like is his job to make the business successful, it's exhausting a lot of times for the visionary. It's super exhausting for the team trying to keep up with that visionary. And when you can just say, hey, these are the 3 or 4 big things we're going to try and hit for the year. Here are 3 or 4 of the smaller things we're going to try and hit for the year. And then here are some lesser initiatives that maybe we'll partner up with some launches in the buy time. Or, you know, I know John Acuff, like his team tries to take off parts of the summer. And so we've talked about doing some affiliate launch stuff in the downtimes where our team isn't going to do a lot, but let the affiliates do the heavy lift. All we have to do is program in some emails, and maybe John jumps on for a quick like edification to his group as we invite people into this webinar hosted by this guy, and then let his team carry it. And I think when you can schedule like that, it gives you like the peace of mind of being able to know that you're working with a cadence move towards goals. So I really love that about your sheet, is that, like Taryn said, it calendars it out, but also it can adjust. And I think you're probably going to show us that, like if quarter 1 doesn't perform right, all that does is leverage more weight into quarter 2 and 3 and 4, but at least you know what you're leaning into rather than just the frenetic energy of knee jerk.
Yeah. The other thing I've also seen is when their companies aren't financially stable. It happens like a lot of lifestyle entrepreneurs. Like the company's basically their piggy bank. It also creates that like frantic energy that you're talking about. And then this helps the team even more. So even implementing it like without like the visionary doesn't even know what's happening, is very helpful to just track what they've said, track what they're thinking, and even track like the previous year. So you can show them, like I've done that, like where I've said like, so this is what we ended up doing last year.
Right.
You think this is going to look the same this year?
Yep.
They often say no, but then it literally like ends up looking almost the exact same. It's kind of hilarious to look at it in that way.
I really loved how you rolled that out with John Acuff, where you're like, hey, show me what you did last year and show me what initiatives you did last year. And then how did they perform last year? And then from there, are you planning on doing those same kind of initiatives this year? And if so, do you think that you're going to get better traction, or will get better results, or like higher lead count that would yield better sales towards the end? Or give me some feedback on that. Cause then I feel like, just like you said, all you're doing is plugging and playing, right? Like you're just plugging and playing stuff. And then, oh no, we're not going to do that. Okay. So what's the next big initiative that we're going to plug that gap with? I think it's brilliant about the SAM plans you design with that intent.
Yeah, and it's really helpful also because sometimes visionaries like they want something new, or they want something to be like more creative than it was last time, which is more of their not to discount it because it is their company, but it's their desire for newness. When like if you can say what's worked, and then just help them be aware of it. So like this really worked in the past, like, so yes, we try this new thing, but we also want to not do everything new, because then we have no stability and no way to forecast, because you don't know how something's going to perform. Yeah. And even when you do know not everything's, the market's constantly changing. The world is very, like, things work very differently than they did pre-COVID. And but it's, you know, always shifting as the world changes and shifts. So any kind of stability you can add for these like very like small, almost like micro businesses that depend on very small teams, it can be helpful. Any other questions before I just kind of walk through the template a little bit?
Well, I have a question. How would you go about being the realist to unrealistic goals?
So the that is the interesting question, because sometimes I am the one that like unrealistic with it, and then how it helps me and what helps me bring myself back to reality is actually doing something similar like what I showed with that initiative. Detail is like to bring it back to math as much as possible, because people have like, even if they don't understand the math, they can't argue with it. So you have a because it's just reality. So if you say someone's like, oh, we think that this is going to make $10 million, and then you're like, so the last time we did something similar, it made $1 million, and then you start to break down like, so if we had like 100 leads or 1,000 leads or 500 leads, like this is what it would generate based on historical results in that company or industry results, because you could also say like, and if it's never been done in that company, to take industry averages and then show them. That works really well. Like with smaller clients I've worked with, everyone wants their magic funnel, and then they just want to run Facebook ads that are going to generate their millions of dollars and make them super successful and all of their dreams come true. And then when you start to show them the math of Facebook ads, like an example, I had a client who had and it's so funny how we do, I think we all have a tendency to do this. He had been at Yahoo. He was like the head of internal marketing, so basically marketing to their internal employees. And then at companies, he was the head of Mojo, which is basically the same thing. So he has this amazing skill set, has no trouble getting consulting clients, works with other consulting people at a high level. But what he wanted to sell was like a $25 pack of like a journal and this like kind of tchotchke, kind of cool thing, but it was $25, but he wanted to run ads to it. And I was like, great. So we're going to run ads. Sorry, my phone in my car's shaking. So we're going to run ads to this thing, and and I started calculating out like, this is how much you're going to get a sale for. It's going to cost you $50 to make this sale, most likely at that point in time with what Facebook ads we're doing, for a $25 sale. So like, what are you going to sell them next? Well, nothing. I just want to sell them this stuff. I want to sell them like a t-shirt. And I was like, great. So like, t-shirts sell when you have a brand name that like people want, or it's like something like super like cultural based, or it's like a, you know, like a phrase from a TV show. That kind of stuff sells. Or you have to be like a gigantic brand. Like nobody just wants your stuff, because like no one's gonna buy like the Rachel t-shirt, because I don't have a famous brand. And so that really has helped, like when they have these unrealistic goals and they just want to start, because so many, they just want to do Facebook ads. Like, why don't we just run Facebook ads? I'm like, I don't do that. But also it's like not what I would recommend to anyone that doesn't just have like money to literally like burn. I think they're great, and like we do them. Like, well, my agency doesn't do them, but we work with agencies that do them, and it's great if you have like a budget, you know, you have like a proven track record. So I would say like for unrealistic goals, just show them the math and break down what you think the results will be, because it has like it brings you back down really fast. Like when I'm thinking, oh, this will be like a $2 million launch. And I'm like, oh, so their list is 300 or 30,000. Like that's probably not likely without a ton of partners. Or they have I have done like a $1.5 million launch with a list of 30,000, but it was like a very responsive list, and it was years ago.
That's good.
I like that. So it's you're working backwards. As long as you've got the data to track, you can even use, you know, their data if they have historical data, or you can give them industry trends because you've worked with a lot of clients, and you can say, all right, if you want to make $1 million, this is how much it's worth. You plug in the end number, and then you can get the beginning number and say, you need 1 million leads, sir.
Right, exactly. So how, like, where are we getting that from? And honestly, like it could all be possible, and you can pull different levers, like raise prices, and and you can also just use a mix of like their data, historical data, or like pull things from different stuff to kind of like Frankenstein together what would possibly work. And industry data is like, I mean, like you can like Google what's the average open rate for emails, and overall industries is like 20%. So you can Google most of that as well to help them, and then also show them, because if they're like, oh, but if we improve all this stuff, and you can say like, that's great. We can improve all of that, but like industry wide, this is what happens. It's like you're not a snowflake
Not a unicorn, right? Yeah.
Right. Any other questions?
I think you're doing great.
Awesome. Okay, so this tab is for your product suite. And so essentially what you do is just like list the product and then the price, like if it's $50, and then say like how, based on the initiatives. And sometimes I go both ways on this. I have like a list of kind of initiatives, then I also have like my goals in mind. And so I might like plug numbers in here and then go back to like what initiative would generate that much, or you already know that there's so it goes where you can start with the initiatives or you can start with this. It just know that you'll have editing to do both ways. And then if you want to sell like 50, then like it's all set up so that it all calculates. Like if you're going to sell 50 a month, that's what you've done historically, then you can put all that in. So this is all set up to calculate out. So you just list down all your products. I have places for 3 different categories of products. Not everyone will have that. And you also can just edit it to add more lines, whatever you need to do here. And then it all comes up to like the total by month. And then going across, you would have the total for the year. Wait, hold on, I didn't delete all of the past data for one, so I'll do that. And then over here you would have the total units sold for the year and then the total revenue by product. To keep this simple, the tabs aren't linked, but you can definitely link up tabs and do all kinds of fancy stuff. And what you do on this tab is like talk about like, so in January, we're going to launch an evergreen funnel. And we, the other thing to note is that when you launch an evergreen funnel, it has a lot of room to grow, but you're probably not going to get 1 million leads the first month. You might get like 40. And then you can say like using these percentages that 20% of those people would book a call. So you have 8 calls, 60% show up. So you get 4 calls essentially. And then from those 40 leads, you're basically going to get 1 sale, which is one of the ways that you can very much ground your sales team and visionaries to show them what's really going to happen with that funnel in the first month. And then obviously the goal is to optimize it and scale it up and increase it. And so then you just list down different initiatives on this tab, and then the product that it's to promote, the price per product here. So in our example, hopefully you wouldn't need a sales call to close a $50 product. But in this example, with your $50 product, you would have like really less than 1 sale. So you're making $29 in revenue, which is also very important if you are doing paid media. And not every marketing person is great at this. People that are doing paid ads should be great at it. But that also is not necessarily the case. And operations people, I feel like it's kind of one of y'all's roles to be the voice of reason and reality, and say like, so we spent, in this case, like if you spent $5 a lead, then you've spent, what is that, $200 on leads to make $29. So that's not going to work. But also, again, hopefully you're not going to, the price for this might be more realistic, was like $2,500, which would change those, then you're profitable. So looking at that is important. Also knowing that you're not necessarily gonna be profitable out of the gate. Like there's, have y'all ever heard of Cole Gordon? He's a guy that he does like sales. He trains sales teams, and he has 2 different funnels that, I don't think it's a secret, they generate, each funnel generates $1 million a month. And so someone could adopt his process and be like, where's my $1 million? And then it took him, like if you ask him like how long did it take you to be successful at this? I have been told the exact answer. I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to make up numbers. That it took him 3 months to be profitable, and he spent $100,000 on the first funnel, like before it was profitable. Now he doesn't need that time, and that's even if someone is amazing at funnels with new clients or a new product or a new like hook, it's always going to take them some time to like dial that in. But that means they're constantly optimizing, because what I've seen a lot of times is they put the funnel up and they're like, okay, so we're going to wait for it to become profitable, and they're like not doing anything with it, like not looking at data constantly. And that doesn't seem to excite some marketers. Some marketers are very excited about that because they like to see the little wins, but some aren't. So they kind of need to be like, I'm not going to say like whipped, but like driven in some kind way to get that.
Whipped in a very kind way.
Yeah, definitely a kind way, but to keep trying to improve or keep trying to get results from that. And the other thing I think that operations people really help with is kind of like raising the flag when it's time to like kill it. Like if you start to like look at like depending on who the visionary is, depending on who the marketer is, depending on who is doing all of the stuff, not everyone is really like, it's kind of like they're trying to just make it win, and they get kind of, instead of focusing on the goal and saying like, is this going to help us reach our goal, they get very committed to this one funnel, trying to perfect this one funnel. And that doesn't always pay off. I have heard like Julie Stowen has a story. She teaches people how to build funnels, and then she has a lot of clients that she helps build like the low offer funnel and to get those profitable. And she has told a story about a client who spent like 7 months on like one thing, and now it produces money like clockwork, but it took 7 months of working on it a lot. And that's not something that most visionaries would be patient for, or most businesses can outlast. This was like her own little like micro product. Like she didn't have a team or anything doing it, so she just spent her time doing it. But that's not something that most teams will want to do. And you also can turn them off too quickly. So that's also a decision to make. And the other tab on here is just like a place to put like things are open. Because usually there's a lot of information like when it's being built out that you have to track down or figure out, or like you're not sure if something's sure. So this is a place to categorize that. And that's really it.
It's like Taryn's jam. What you just said right there is like where Taryn lives. She's just like, oh my gosh, no, what you want me to build is actually not a problem at all. It's collecting all the junk that it's going to take for me to build that. That's going to take forever. And if nobody responds to me, or if I get 85% of the way and then everybody just starts going radio silent, guess what? We're not going to have the launch ready, and it's not going to be built out in time. And then visionary panics coming up the day before it's done. Or it's like, hey, I've been nurturing your team for the last 3 months on this. I don't know what you want me to say, but
right, exactly. Exactly. So having it all here is helpful.